Blog Talk Radio.
Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Piccolo Inn Kick-Ass Fantasy Football Show. I'm your host, Jumpin' John Prevost. I got some sad news for you tonight. My usual partner in crime, the Judge, Judge Jaffe, is not able to join us tonight, but we do have a special treat, and that special treat would be the most interesting man in fantasy football, sipping at Dos Equis. We have the Professor. So, Professor Wynn, how are you? Welcome.
Thank you, John. I mentioned to John before the show went on, this is the first time I've done a nighttime show in about 3 or 4 months, and you know what I miss about the nighttime shows is the cocktails. Can't do them on the 10 o'clock a.m. show, but I want to say we were discussing our company league just before the show kicked in, and usually you have Ray Jaffe here. Ray and I played each other in the Kick-Ass Fantasy Football League this week, and we have our usual bet, the loser buys the winner a beer, and I said, Ray, if I beat you by 150, I get to do your show. Here I am.
Well, I was wondering why you agreed so readily, and my theory was, you know, you might want to mention the 800 points you put up last week. So.
Yeah, going into Monday night, I think I had tripled him for the week, although he did get back a little bit, so didn't quite have that feat, that achievement in my belt. But my team, I had given up on him 3 weeks ago, and since then I've been the high scorer 2 of those 3 weeks. So it's amazing what happens when you bench Michael Vick. So I recommend it to Andy Reid.
Well, really, don't have much choice right now. But it's funny, though, Steve, because we actually were talking about you last week, and we were saying how, you know, in all honesty, your analysis and, you know, when you talk fantasy football, your recommendations, I mean, it's spot on. It's just, it's really great. But when it comes to your teams, it just, you know, there's a little bit lost in the translation. And so with what you've done lately in our Kick-Ass League, you really have kind of lit it on fire. You started off slow, and you've really bolted out, had some extremely high scores, and maybe this is the year you put 1 and 1 together.
Yeah, that's historically my deal is I'm 8-5 every year. I make the playoffs. I don't win the championship, and that's why I do a radio show now. I'm better off helping other people. You know, some players are better at being a coach after their playing career is over. I think that's my calling in life, is to coach other people. I got a couple followers on Twitter who are both undefeated, following my advice. I wish I was in their leagues and could take advantage, but for some reason I can't manage to strike that kind of gold for myself.
Well, what I've found is when you're giving analysis, writing it down on the radio, however it is, it's easier to separate yourself because it's not your team. You haven't invested in it. Ray and I talk about man crushes all the time. Usually it's on my side. Chris Johnson or Randy Moss, whoever it may be, we're talking about. And you know, when you get them on your team, it's harder to separate. And you just, I know they can do it. I know they can do it, and they just don't. Whereas when, you know, just kind of giving a fresh sheet of paper, giving some names, you can objectively order them in your mind and give the analysis, and I think it makes it easier that way. So, my tagline on my If Only column is, do as I say, not as I do, and I say, listen to the Professor.
The perfect example, I'm in a league, a big money league with the commish, and I drafted. I didn't take a first-round running back. Basically, it's an auction league, and I punted out of that part of the draft. Ended up with Adrian Peterson, Trent Richardson, Doug Martin, and Reggie Bush as my running backs. Percy Harvin and Brandon Marshall as my receiver, 2 of my receivers, and Vernon Davis as my tight end. That team should be, 9-2 at this point. They're 5-6. I have played the high scorers 3 weeks of those 6 losses. I just can't win.
No, I hear you. I did an auction league on ESPN, and I came out of it thinking I'm not going to lose. And then injuries to Marco Murray, injuries to Jordy Nelson, and I might not make the playoffs. It's just funny how it goes, and you never know. But that's sort of what's great about playing fantasy football. If anything can happen.
Well, I got four guys that are top 12 running backs. How could I be 5 and 6 and need to win out and have some luck to make the playoffs? Anyway, okay. That's
all right. Well,
musician about that.
No, that's right. And so for those of you, our tens and tens, or actually we're now up to dozens and dozens of loyal listeners, Ray and I talk about the leagues we've played together and how we've been playing for 10 years in the same league, in leagues together, and the commission is in the same boat as we are. Same leagues, Ray and the commission, myself. It was a work league. We all worked together for a while, and it started back then, and that was 10, 11 years ago. And then now we're all on the kick-ass team, and actually Ray and I are brought over by the commission, so we actually owe a lot to Steve. I'm sorry, the professor. Sorry.
Yeah, the commission brought me in, and I knew that you guys could both talk. You know what? Here's a shocker, John. 14 years ago we started that league. Although you came in a year or two after.
I did come in a little bit after. Yeah.
Yeah. But that league has been around a long, long time. So anyway, we're 8 minutes into this show, and we got a lot of injuries. It was concussion week in the NFL. I don't know if they were intentionally designing that, but a lot of stuff to hit. So if you want to get into the ugly.
Okay, let's get into the ugly. Actually, let's throw off a little bit of news going on, and being the Pittsburgh Steelers fan that I am, you have to excuse my voice. I'm a little bit hoarse, a little bit under the weather. So if I'm cracking on air, it's not puberty. It's just a little bit frog in my throat. But the Steelers are going ahead and signing Plaxico Burress and Brian Hoyer, and I'm wondering what your take is on that, Professor, and what that means for Ben Roethlisberger. Obviously, they've gotten a couple injuries at quarterback, and maybe what that means for Antonio Brown.
Yeah, well, Roethlisberger, I hope for his own health that he doesn't play for the rest of the year. Everything I've read about his injury makes it seem like it could be on the order of what happened to Jason Witten just before the season started with the Cowboys, where it was, it's potentially life-threatening internal issues. So his ribs are cracked. Byron Leftwich's ribs are broken, so they're down to Charlie Batch. Here's a fine third-string quarterback, but neither one of the number one or number two is going to see the field for at least another 2 or 3 weeks. So they're concerned about those guys, and if I'm Steelers Nation, I almost want to fold up my tent for the year and call it a day. It's been the merry-go-round of running backs all season long, and now we're going to get down to our third string quarterback too. That's a lot to come back from.
Yeah, it is a shame, and I thought they were really getting it together. I love their schedule, especially from a fantasy perspective, towards the end of the season, and then they lose Antonio Brown, they lose Ben Roethlisberger, and now they're pretty much spinning their wheels. So it's a shame for the great Steeler Nation. Yeah,
well, I didn't realize that you were a Steelers fan. I myself, after the Eagles, root for the Ravens. So I'd have prepared some material for that after this week. But there's another team. All their losses have been on the defensive side of the ball, not as big a fantasy impact, but. Even the Steelers D has seen a lot of key injuries this year. So, it's really disappointing when you see a season flushed because of injuries, not because of poor play or poor coaching, neither of which really happens in Steeler land ever.
No, that is true. And there's actually a comparison between Tomlin and Cowher, and they're both 1-1 the Super Bowls and the amount of victories they have. But so it's you're right. I mean, the amount of, I think they've had 3 coaches since Chuck Noll. I mean, I'm trying to remember who was between Chuck Noll and Cowher. Was there anyone? Did Cowher take right over right after Noll? I mean, it's just amazing the continuity they have in that organization and how they stick to everyone, and it's really provided a great amount of success for the Steelers.
Yeah, somebody's got to find out what they do when they interview their coaches, because they need to send that script out to Kansas City and down to Carolina. So it's a shame.
Maybe they'll have a little of that script to say hire Cowher out of retirement. Either one.
So somebody that will happen. Cowher will come out of retirement this year. Gruden will come back into coaching. So at least 2 of the seats that'll be open, and they'll get some quality guys in there. But I do think that the wave of the future, or the way to go, is to look at the future and look at the guys coming out of the college coaching ranks or the assistant ranks. I really like, for instance, Joe Philbin, who came out as a offensive coordinator from the Packers, and he's coaching the Dolphins this year, and they're doing a world better than anybody expected them to do. And it really is coaching. And look at Jeff Fisher as another example. Did anybody expect the Rams to be in the playoff picture in Week 11?
I can't imagine anyone did, except for maybe anyone in the Rams organization.
Yeah.
Just did not see in the cards.
Yeah. So it's coaching. Coaching is a lot more important than people think, and I do write that article every year, the coaching changes and the effects on the teams for fantasy. It's definitely an understudied part of fantasy football.
All right. Well, that's definitely a true bit there. And let's go real quick. A little bit of other news. Speaking of the Ravens, Ed Reed was suspended for next week's games, just pretty much for illegal hits, it seems. And Titus Young was suspended for next week's games. Now, I'm not really sure if it was something he said, his play on the field. Something's going on. It's a little disappointing. I'm a Titus Young owner in a couple of leagues and was expecting some bigger things from him this year. We actually touted him as a huge sleeper of the year. So that's a little disappointing on both sides. And then
you gotta look at Broyles as really being the only ownable receiver there besides Calvin Johnson. So Titus Young is just one of those $1 million talent, 10-cent head kind of guys.
Nice, I like that one. And then the other bit of news is around San Francisco and Colin Kaepernick. Tell me a little bit about what's going on with him, because I heard something today that whoever's healthy will be starting. Looks like he's been some news coming out saying he's being named as a starter. What's going on in the San Francisco quarterback situation?
Well, Harbaugh has said on the record he does not follow that rule that the injured player gets their job back when they come back from the injury. So there was no guarantee that Alex Smith was going to get the job. And what you've got is you've got a guy who plays mistake-free but unexciting football in Alex Smith getting injured, and Colin Kaepernick comes in, and they did move up to get him in the second round last year. He's a guy they wanted because they didn't know if Alex Smith could do it. And Kaepernick comes in and puts on a clinic against at least a top 3 defense in the Bears going into that game, if not the most intimidating defense in the NFL. So it's, how do you sit the guy that has just kicked butt in such a manner against a team that you probably will see in the playoffs if you're the 49ers organization? So, I've seen the report that Kaepernick is named the starter. I've seen in other places that it's still up in the air. But if I'm and I do like the 49ers. I'm a big fan of Harbaugh's coaching style. I'm with him. If he sticks with Kaepernick and keeps Alex Smith on the bench, he's got a guy that is has got some value in a trade next year after the season's over, and he's got what he thinks is his best chance to win a Super Bowl. And that's really what it's all about.
Yeah, and I get not subscribing to the theory of not losing your job. And I can understand if someone's playing well, he's been out for a while, and, you know, you don't automatically come back and get your job. Especially if you're talking, I mean, let's face it, if you're talking Brady Quinn or Matt Castle, you know, something like that, hey, you know, someone's coming in and doing a much better job, that's fine. But my question is Alex Smith deserve really to lose his job? He's really, you know, his quarterback rating, I believe, is like over 100, and, you know, he's won a lot of games with San Francisco, and he's really kind of gotten his identity into the 49ers offense. While not flashy, he truly is getting the job done. So, not that I'm not buying the skills of Kaepernick, but does Alex Smith really deserve to lose his job?
No, he absolutely doesn't, and it's a shame. But, you know, Alex Smith does have limitations. He is the stereotype that we always used for a player like him is Trent Dilfer. You know, yes, he quarterbacked the Ravens to a Super Bowl, but he didn't lead the Ravens to a Super Bowl victory. Their defense did, and that is exactly the blueprint that the 49ers are taking in building their team. And, you know, Alex Smith certainly fits the blueprint, but Kaepernick is, well, he had the highest quarterback rating for the week and the highest quarterback rating for a debut start ever.
So are you recommending Kaepernick as a pickup and or start from a fantasy perspective?
I am recommending Kaepernick as a pickup, definitely. He has got, we on our Sunday show, we've had a couple weeks of segments with discussion of how to prep your team for the playoffs. And 1 week we went through key handcuffs and insurance, risk reduction. The other week was the opportunities, the high upside guys. And there are three teams that have great schedules for the fantasy playoffs. Philadelphia Eagles, the San Francisco 49ers, and the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I said you can't really count on Alex Smith and Blaine Gabbert as quarterbacks for a fantasy perspective in the playoffs. However, both of those situations changed this week, and if Kaepernick keeps this job, and, you know, I wouldn't start him next week if you've got a decent starter ahead of him, a Matt Schaub or an Eli Manning. But if he goes off again, you've got a guy that might give you the Super Bowl because the Niners have a great playoff set of matchups. And while I'm on the subject, yes, Chad Henne's another guy that I'm saying pick him up as a flyer. You know, if he keeps the job down in Jacksonville, he's a huge upgrade over Gabbert. He's definitely out there on everybody's waiver wire. And if he gives you, 30-point games where, quarterbacks average 22 in your particular league, that's a huge advantage. And, he's playing for a job next year, Chad Henne.
Certainly is. Well, on that note, so a couple of recommendations from the professor, Chad Henne and Colin Kaepernick. We're going to take a 2-minute break. And when we come back, we'll have our weekly guest, Victor, on to talk about Fantasy Player Exchange. And please feel free to call in, 877-511-1024. We'll get your questions on the air. We'll be back in 2 minutes.
Now is your chance to experience the new game that's transforming fantasy sports. Fantasy Player Exchange is a new daily game that allows you to compete against friends and fantasy foes for cash prizes. With FPX, you can select 5 players from any active sport. Sign up now at fantasyplayerexchange.com for your chance to beat ESPN Radio's Henry the Commish Brick and win $1,000 cash. Go to fantasyplayerexchange.com to sign up and play today. Remember, that's fantasyplayerexchange.com.
I'm sexy and I know.
Car Toys, the most innovative car customizing shop in its class. Summer is here, and so's the heat. Better get that remote start so you can cool off in your car in style with your smartphone. Car Toys can install remote start on Mercedes-Benz, push-button start, and stick shift. Reduce that glare with the best 3M window film. And while you're at it, get your car car detailed by Car Toys Detail Department, so your ride looks, feels, and smells brand new. Car Toys defines what everything for your car really means, from TV to reality. That's why Car Toys is the leader in the industry in car customization. Car Toys' knowledgeable team are the best in their class. Like Car Toys on Facebook and check them out at distinctivecartoys.com.
Don't let your fantasy issues become a reality. Fantasy Judgment is the premier dispute resolution service for all fantasy sports leagues. Led by attorney Michael Stein, the Supreme Court of Fantasy Judgment will resolve any and all issues or conflicts that arise in fantasy leagues. This includes disputed trades, collusion, abuse of power by league commissioners, lineup and roster errors, draft issues, score discrepancies, and interpretation of league rules. We alleviate the burden for league commissioners and allow everyone to focus on winning their leagues rather than arguing over disputes. Visit www.fantasyjudgment.com.
Fantasy Football, the Kick-Ass Fantasy Football Show. Every Sunday morning at 9 a.m. here on 97.3 ESPN. Join the Professor, the Commish, and Fantasy Insider Matt Lowry for the Kick-Ass Fantasy Football Show. Got a question? Call us. Who should you start? Who should you trade? Who's great? And who just plain The Kick-Ass Fantasy Football Show. On the web at kickassfantasyfootball.com. Yeah, kickassfantasyfootball.com. And every Sunday at 9 a.m. I felt that one way up here. Right here on 97.3 ESPN.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Piccolo Inn Kick-Ass Fantasy Football Show. Don't forget, we have our call-in line, 877-511-1024. And we have Victor from Fantasy Player Exchange. And, Victor, before we get to you, we'll let Steve finish the topic of Colin Kaepernick and Chad Henne, because I know everyone's just on the edge of their seat waiting to hear more about them.
No problem. Well, you guys jumped to break pretty quickly. I just wanted to say you're certainly not going to put Chad Henne or Colin Kaepernick in front of Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady or even Robert Griffin. But if your season's been riding along with Michael Vick or Jay Cutler and you've been managing to squeak through, or Ben Roethlisberger for that matter, these two guys could help you fix that problem. So don't go crazy on them, but it certainly could be a potential problem solver.
Steve, over the commercial break, based on your advice, I dropped Tom Brady for Chad Henne, so I figured I should get him on. All right, so Victor, Fantasy Player Exchange, we always are interested in how many people beat the commish. I mean, it's a personal favorite of mine to be able to beat the commish, but Judge Ray Jackie's not here to talk about how well he did, so why don't you fill us in on the week in Fantasy Player Exchange? Fill us in on how the college basketball is shaping up and anything else you want to talk about.
Sure, no problem. Well, thanks again for having me on. And the Beat the Commish game, as is our big thing that we're doing right now. The Commish still has yet to win. Last week, I believe he ended second to last out of everybody that played last week. So he's still, he's getting there, but he's going the wrong way.
Well, that's always good to know before the Sunday show. I do the Sunday show with the Commish. Victor, you've been on with us a couple times, and I will file that away from my show notes. Thank you.
It was second to last, and you know what it is? I see his strategy is what I usually suggest is, go all in on one player you feel very strong about. He went in on one player, and it was the wrong player. Because he was negative at that point. So it all depends on how that player goes. But we always suggest that to everybody. You always want to find that person you believe in that might not have that, it might not be the Tom Brady where you're going to get the highest return on, but it's going to be that sleeper that, to give you a little hint for this week, if anybody goes to fantasyplayerexchange.com and looks at the rating, this week Eli Manning is only costing $15. Where typically he's in the $70 to $90 range. So I'm just giving a little hint there. You might want to think about that.
Okay, that's an interesting play. I think if you had played Colin Kaepernick and Chad Henne last week, you almost certainly would have won.
Absolutely. If you knew then, what you know now, what you knew then, right?
And no, there's not a person on the planet that was playing either one of those two guys. I can guarantee it. So
I guarantee you. But that's one of the upsides with Fantasy Player Exchange. It's a weekly thing. It's a daily thing, really. You don't have to worry about, dropping people every week. You can come on any day of the week, play whatever active sport we have, and you can play to see if you're going to win or not. The Beat the Commish game that we have going every Sunday is a $2 entry game. Right now, if anybody goes to sign up at fantasyplayerexchange.com, they'll be able to play the game for free. We're still giving $10 for free just for signing up. And you can play that Beat the Commish game for 5 weeks straight, or you can just put the $2 in for the Beat the Commish game and do whatever you want with the rest of the money. As long as you play at least $10 worth, that's free to everybody.
And it's not just football that you can be able to play. So there's, basketball, and I'm sure when the season rolls around, baseball. What are the sports lineups do you have so far in your fantasy player exchange?
Well, as of right now, we have actively the NFL and the NCAA for college football. Basketball will be coming up by the end of this month. We're going to get both the pros and we're going to get college. So we're looking to get for basketball coming up for the NCAA championship for basketball is going to be huge for us. I mean, think about it. March Madness is crazy to begin with. Imagine being able to pick different teams every single day for 4 weeks straight, and then you get the championship games for the conferences. We're really excited about that coming up.
Yeah, I got to tell you, Victor, I have been playing Gary Bettman, the commissioner of the NHL, every week, and I don't seem to be winning. So, so I'm waiting for you guys to turn the scoring on for hockey executives.
Yeah,
and I feel like I'll be set. So,
Well, we actually do have the numbers for hockey. We actually are. We are expected to have hockey from the beginning of the year, but obviously as of right now that isn't going to happen. But if they do decide to do something, we're ready for it.
Yeah, that lockout has got to be killing you. But the prospect of NCAA basketball in a format like you guys offer, that's really going to be a lot of fun and a new way for people to enjoy their March Madness on top of all the games going on almost 24 hours a day. So,
we're definitely excited about it, and we just want everybody to make sure that you go to fantasyplayerexchange.com, sign up. It's absolutely free to sign up, and you're going to get $10 worth of games to play.
No, that's great, and I know the judge is a big believer in the Fantasy Player Exchange. He loves Beat the Commish, and he's done well in it, so it's definitely a good idea.
It's like a second job for the judge. He's won 3 weeks of the contest. So
yes, he has.
We may have to switch over to Beat the Judge next year, but that's not really any fun at all.
We may have to. It's at least he's winning a couple here or there,
That's right. Better for you. Better for you.
Hey, well, whatever. Whoever wins. We're not worried about that. But thank you guys very much for having me on again.
No problem, Victor. It's always good to hear from you. And fantasyplayerexchange.com.
Yep. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thanks a lot, Victor.
Talking to you, Victor.
You too. Bye-bye now. Thanks.
All right. So that was Victor, Fantasy Player Exchange. And let's get right back into our fantasy football. Got a couple of questions for you. Excuse me, Steve. Little frog went there again. There's a segment that we started this year that I kind of like because it kind of, at times, can separate the wheat from the chaff. And it's called For Real. So I'm going to throw out a couple names to you, and you're going to tell me if they're for real. So, Well, we had a pretty big game, Houston-Jacksonville. A lot of fantasy points being scored. Andre Johnson, obviously, we know what he can do. But Matt Schaub is 43 for 55, 527 yards, and 5 touchdowns. So, the big news on the big story on Schaub throughout the year was, he's steady, doesn't need to throw because it's a running game, and then this happened. So why don't you tell me, is Matt Schaub for real?
Well, that was the knock on the Texans being the number one team going into that game was, can they throw the ball? If you take Arian Foster out of the game plan, is it possible for the Texans to still win? And Matt Schaub knew going into that game, I expected him to have a good showing in that game. I thought they would be forced to throw the ball more. I don't think 527 yards and 5 touchdowns is his new baseline. But I do think that he is a solid, ranked in the 10 to 15 range at quarterback, which is certainly an upgrade for him. But it's the Texans basically announcing to the world, you got Arian Foster to deal with, and Matt Schaub, Andre Johnson, and the rest of that passing game. So it really makes them multidimensional. It makes it harder to game plan against them, which again will swing the pendulum to open things up for Arian Foster too. So I'm going to give a partial for real. He's much better, but he's not that good every week.
All right. So on the other side of the ball, we had Chad Henne thrown to Justin Blackmon. So Chad Henne was 16 for 33, which if you look at it, that's not even 50%. But he did throw for 354 yards with 4 touchdowns, and 236 of them went to Justin Blackmon for 7 catches, 236, and a touchdown. So are they both for real?
Yeah, this one I have to say for real. The Texans are a for real defense. So, Kenny gets the benefit of he's not the guy to game plan for, and he plays a little bit more of a Tim Tebow style game than Blaine Gabbert's game. So, there's a little bit of game plan in there. Again, I think that Chad Henne is an interesting guy to stash on your bench and see what the Jaguars do with him for the next couple weeks. So again, I'm going for real.
All right. So another name that's been thrown out for a couple weeks due to injury, Marcel Reese. He's really seen to step up his game. He had 103 rushing yards and 90 receiving yards. And is that what we can expect from Reese? I hear McFadden's out for another possibly 2 to 4 weeks. Is that what we can expect from him? And is Marcel Reese for real?
Marcel Reese is for real as a high-end running back too. So 190 yards. It was the situation that they were in that he got the opportunity to do that. He's not going to. I don't think he'll achieve that kind of yardage total again this year. But the Raiders, they have proven that whether it's McFadden or Michael Bush or Marcel Reese, they can run the ball down your throat. So for real as a fantasy starter, yes.
All right. And it looks like we have a caller on the line, and I believe it's Jersey in the house. So our most loyal caller. So let's jump right ahead and talk to Jersey in the house.
Hey,
so Jersey,
guys,
go ahead.
Hey guys, how you doing? Hey, I won both my legs last week, Junior won, so I'm going to be in the playoffs, but I'm trying to train for my team. He's still fighting. My division's a little bit weaker than his. Here's the thing: my running backs I have DeMarco Murray, I have Forte, I have Ridley, and I have Ryan Matthews. But you really can't trust your running backs. I know Ridley hasn't scored a touchdown against the Jets. I don't know when. I don't know what's going on with Forte. Because what's it called out? I got 34 points from San Francisco's defense, so I won this week. But my question is, with Julio Jones, Cruz, and Damaris Moore, who's killing me 2 times I've used them, do I need to, and I have Titus Young who is going to drop either for Cecil Shorts or a running back like a Hillman or that guy from Jacksonville? What's your theory? Do I pick up Shorts and go and have 4 receivers because you only start 2? Because I don't know what Julio's going to do this week. I got Cruz back. And the really only healthy starters I have is Ridley, maybe Matthews, but I won't start him, and Forte. Do I take a chance on another running back to have on there as a starter, or do I drop Titus Young for Cecil Shorts?
All right, Professor, go ahead.
Yeah, I would have to say that all else being equal, I'd say take Justin Parmalee, but Jalen Parmalee, wrong Parmalee, right? Amazingly, right. But Jalen Parmalee, but you are pretty deep, even though Ryan Matthews is a little flaky at best. Right. You're deeper running back, so I think that I'd make the play for Cecil Shorts and shore up some depth in your wide receiver rank.
There. And I've been going with Witten in my PPR league. Vernon Davis finally had a good game because they got Alex Smith out of there or Kaepernick. Do you still go with Witten and see what maybe happens a second week? And because what happens with this PPR league, it's nice. It's 10 point for every 10 yards. Like Witten gave me big numbers, like 44 points one week because you have 18 catches. Because once you get over 20 or 12 receptions, you get these big bonus points for the stuff too. You know what I mean? So if you're over 100 yards receiving, you get another 5 bonus points. So do you stick with Witten this week, or do you take a chance on Owen Dennis? Because the guy I'm playing, we're tied for first. So I want to beat him, so I take sole possession of first. Because he has Ryan Matthews, but, or not Ryan Matthews.
You can't worry about that. I say you got to keep Witten. Not only has Witten, he's sort of underperformed the past couple games, but he's had some great games, and when he's clicking with Romo, it's a really nice thing. Plus, they got a division matchup on Thanksgiving in Dallas against a weak defense. So I'm thinking it's all hands on deck in Dallas. So I would say it with.
So I'm
going to agree.
Agree. So then basically, in my standard league, I'm going to play Witten too. I got Freeman and I got Romo. Now, it's weird. Like, Freeman has outscored him by about 8 points this week, but I still won anyhow. And point 4, like half of a point the week before that. But what scares me about them is Tampa hasn't beaten. I think they're 1-5 against Atlanta. Atlanta kind of owns Tampa Bay. But Freeman has gone good, but they have a running game. Dallas doesn't really have a running game, so he's forced to kind of throw more. Do you in a standard league, point every 25 yards? Do you go with Romo, or do you go with Freeman?
I'm riding Freeman until he proves me wrong. And don't forget that the Falcons have a couple injuries on their defense. I don't doubt that the Falcons are going to win this game, but I wouldn't be surprised to see it be a 31-24 kind of score. And that's enough production to make Freeman a good start fantasy-wise.
Yeah, I think you almost can't lose. I'm expecting a shootout. I think we're going to have a mad Atlanta, so they're going to want to put a lot of points on the board. I think Freeman, my personal opinion, actually, I'm like a Romo, again, because I just think it's a Thanksgiving Day matchup, usually a pretty high-scoring affair in Dallas. But, on the flip side, it's going to be a high-scoring affair in Atlanta as well. So, we have a little differing opinion there, but I think either way, it's a pretty good matchup.
Either way, you can't lose. Either way, you can't lose. Hey, with Junior's team, last thing, he's banged up at running back because we don't know if Fred Jackson's going to play this week with a concussion. He's got Doug Martin. He has Mendenhall, but he can't really trust him yet because he didn't do much this past week. So he's got Daniel Thomas, who he's going to drop. So should he put in for Parmalee, Hillman, or Brown, and in what order? Because I think he picks like 9 out of 12.
Well,
I would say Hillman first, Parmalee second, Bryce Brown third. Hillman has got a great matchup for the playoffs, fantasy-wise. So if he's going to be getting into the playoffs, Denver is the place to be. And frankly, Peyton Manning can make anybody look good when he hands him the ball. I think that Parmalee might be the most talented guy, but remember, it's Jacksonville. So, you have to.
And Parmalee might only be what's called where he says Drew may come back next week, week 13. You know what I mean?
Right. That's a possibility too. Is that he comes in and Parmalee only has 2 weeks of value. So Hillman is the first choice. Yeah.
All right. I'll definitely do that. Thank you guys. I appreciate it very much. You guys have a safe Thanksgiving. Best of luck to you guys this weekend. Appreciate the information and the insight. Take care, guys. Best of luck to you.
Always great.
Right.
Yep.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
All right, so on that note, we're a little behind on our scheduled break, so let's go into that. Remember, our call-in line is 877-511-1024. Our website is www.kickassfantasyfootball.com. We'll be back in 2 minutes.
Fantasy football owners, the Kick-Ass Fantasy Football Show is back every Sunday this season with everything you need to cruise into a championship. Join me, the professor,
and me, the commish, along with fantasy insider Matt Lowry. Get all your fantasy football news as we break down all the players and tell you who to start and who to trade while we take your calls all show long.
We'll see you every Sunday morning at 9 a.m. all season long here on 97.3 ESPN. Check us out on the web at kickassfantasyfootball.com.
We're famous for our buffalo wings. The Piccalilli. When it comes to cooking wings, we're the king. The Piccalilli. Pull up a chair, grab a table, enjoy the atmosphere. Have something good to eat or have yourself around here. If you're not fat,
doesn't fall without the famous Piccalilli Inn. Catch all of your favorite football action at the Piccalilli Inn. Check out the Pick's brand new menu featuring homemade buffalo chicken egg rolls, buffalo shrimp, scallops, and the tender Pick burger. They go great with one of the Pick's ice-cold on-tap beers. Catch every football game at the Pick. Enjoy an awesome meal while you watch your favorite team. The Piccalilli Inn, a Jersey tradition since the 1920s. On Route 206 in Chemung. If you can't stop in, stop back.
The Piccalilli Inn.
Don't let your fantasy issues become a reality. Fantasy Judgment is the premier dispute resolution service for all fantasy sports leagues. Led by attorney Michael Stein, the Supreme Court of Fantasy Judgment will resolve any and all issues or conflicts that arise in fantasy leagues. This includes disputed trades, collusion, abuse of power by league commissioners, lineup and roster errors, draft issues, score discrepancies, and interpretation of league rules. We alleviate the burden for league commissioners and allow everyone to focus on winning their leagues rather than arguing over disputes. Visit www.fantasyjudgment.com.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Piccalilli Inn Kick-Ass Fantasy Football Show. This is your host, Jumpin' John Prevost, with the Professor, Steve Wynn. We're going to get right into injuries. Had a lot of injuries. And so, Professor, I'm going to kind of categorize them in two different areas, and you'll see why. First couple we're going to go over. First one's Willis McGahee. He busted his knee. I'm not sure what the MRI revealed yet, but he is out for the season, so I'm pretty sure it's a torn ACL. And it's a big blow to a lot of fantasy teams.
Yeah, if you've got McGahee and he's been a critical part of your team, and most likely he has, you got to go out, you got to get Hillman ASAP. And they do have some nice matchups, as I mentioned, with Jersey in the house. So get him. Pay what you have to if you're in one of those bidding systems, and get Hillman on your team.
Okay, another big blow to the Patriots. Rob Gronkowski, he's out with a broken arm. I believe it's going to be 4 to 6 weeks. And, you know, we like to talk about replacements, as we just did with Hillman. And my question is, do you really need one? You know, they still got Lloyd, Welker, Edelman stepped up in a big way, and I think they're going to get Hernandez back. So,
well, the Patriots might not need one, but Gronkowski's owners do. So Visanthe Shenko is a former Viking on that team. If Hernandez doesn't play, he'll get a lot of that Rob Gronkowski production, but he's certainly not as huge a target as Gronkowski is. If you got to go deep, Brandon Myers is probably the best play that's out there on your waiver wire. Garrett Graham and Ben Watson had nice weeks this week. If you're looking for a little bit more upside, I would say Ben Watson's the better play of those two.
Wow, that's Ben Watson. That's a blast from the past there. That's sort of the
former
best you call. Yeah. All right. Talked about this already. Blaine Gabbert, he was out with his elbow injury, and who replaced him again? I can't remember.
Chad Henne, I talked about his passing matchups. He's worth a lottery ticket. Get him on your bench. Get rid of your backup kicker, and see if this guy pays off for you.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, Chad Henne has already been named the starter, regardless of the status of Blaine Gabbert. So do you see that being the case for the rest of the year?
Yeah, I mean, Gabbert has just, he's 18 games as a starter at this point. He is not getting it done. I think that the ownership and coaching staff have come to that conclusion too. I don't know if Chad Henne's the answer for the future, but he's the answer for the next 6 weeks of the regular season.
And then in Pittsburgh, we talked about this at the top of the show. Brian Leftwich, he left the game with some crack. Well, actually, he didn't leave the game. He played for the rest of the game with some cracked ribs and a separated shoulder, but he is out for most likely a couple weeks as well as Roethlisberger. So they're down to Charlie Batch, their third-string quarterback. And
yeah, Batch is not too bad, but he's not ownable for fantasy purposes. So you got to be looking at guys like Henne, Kaepernick, and Russell Wilson as possible replacements for your Ben Roethlisberger troubles.
Now, George in the house mentioned Julio Jones is one of his receivers. What we didn't mention is his ankle and the impact that his injury has, whether he's going to play this next week. And would you see the impact of Julio Jones?
This is a tough one because I think he plays. I don't think this is a long-term injury. It's not a high ankle sprain, so he may be a little ginger this week, and they may try and rest him up a little bit for a his playoff appearances, and the Falcons want to win a Super Bowl. But I don't think his health is as bad as some people are worrying. So he'll be back in a couple weeks.
I mean, what you generally see, they already have a couple of good receiving options, Tony Gonzalez and, of course, Roddy White. There was a slight uptake in Jacquizz Rodgers, catches out of the backfield, so just as an FYI. But, whether he plays or doesn't play, there's still a pretty prolific passing offense.
Yeah, it is a good upgrade for Rodgers. He's probably the biggest beneficiary.
And then we talked about the Raiders as well, Marcel Reese and how well he's doing. Tawan Jones, who was listed as the third-string running back, he went out with a leg injury, and I guess my question is, does that matter? I mean, was he having much of an impact to begin with, and he's still just riding Marcel Reese?
Yeah, you'd like to have that change-of-pace guy, but, McFadden's out, Goodson's out, Tawan Jones is out, Marcel Reese, he puts up a 190-yard stat line because there's nobody else carrying that ball. It's not like Carson Palmer's going to sprint out of the pocket. So, if they're going forward on the ground, it's going to be Reese, and teams will try and prevent that from happening. But Reese is it. He's the show out there now.
And then we talked a little bit about Percy Harvin tweaked his ankle, and what's going on with Percy Harvin?
It's a little frustrating. There's no setbacks, so there's always the possibility he may play. I think he's going to tease you for another 3 weeks, but when he plays, you have to start him. The problem is you have to be in front of your computer from 12:30 to 1 o'clock every Sunday, watching the injury reports to see if he's a last-minute scratch. Without Harvin in the lineup, the Vikings are, a different team.
Absolutely. Well, as an Adrian Peterson owner in one of my major leagues, I'm okay with it. But
he's definitely benefiting.
So, and I said I was going to separate the injuries into two categories, and you'll see why when we go over the next couple of folks. LaShawn McCoy out with concussion. How long is he out? And Bryce Brown, is he worth the pickup?
Yeah, this is another one that's tough. You have a hard time figuring out what the Eagles are thinking in this situation. LaShawn McCoy is a key piece for the future. They may want to just leave him on the shelf, rehabilitate, get over the concussion fully. It's not like the Eagles are playing for anything, so look for Bryce Brown to get his official tryout. Guys like Riley Cooper getting a lot more action as they finish out the season and kind of play out the string.
All right, Donnie Avery out with a concussion. After, of course, I picked him up in our kick-ass league, I had my choice between Avery and Hilton, and I picked up Avery. So
I had been ragging Avery all season long after a couple of dubious trades by the commish in our big money league. But I thought that he had finally come around and luck is looking his way, but he's not a resilient guy. He took the injury, and Luck is a smart enough quarterback that he'll just disperse the ball around to Hilton or the tight end. So there's no. If you had Avery on your team, you have my condolences, and there is really no backup plan to replace Donnie Avery.
And the reason why I picked up Avery, because looking at the prior week's games, it looked like he was targeted a lot more than Hilton.
Yes.
So,
he was trending in the right direction before the injury.
Yeah. So, Isaac Redman, we talked about the mishmash Steeler backfield. He's out with concussion. And, Dwyer, Mendenhall, Dwyer's 12 for 55, Mendenhall 11 for 33. So, what's going on in Pittsburgh running back?
Well, it's been going on all season long, and it's whoever's healthy enough to, haul their rear ends out onto the field. It does give me the opportunity. I don't know if you've seen the pictures of the football helmet of the future, but what they do is they put another layer of padding on the outside of the helmet, and then there's the hard shell like you've got now, and then the padding on the inside. And what you get is almost a Marvin the Martian from the old Bugs Bunny cartoons kind of effect.
Yeah.
everybody's head is about 2 inches bigger than it is now. With this number of concussions to key playmakers in the NFL, don't be surprised to see Marvin the Martian all over your football fields in 2 years.
Well, whatever works. And again, I think you've picked up on the pattern why I separated the injuries out. There was at least 4, if not 5, concussions. Dennis Pitta had a concussion. From a fantasy perspective, he's fallen off the radar. And Dwayne Bowe, he's listed as concussion. He's also listed as a neck injury, so I'm not really sure what's going on. But so 4 or 5 concussions at minimum, plus obviously the ones that maybe weren't reported. And it just seems to be a big spate of concussions coming out of the NFL lately.
Yeah, and I think there were 3 or 4 in the last week or two to key players as well. So people talked about it in the preseason, the concussion epidemic, and the NFL kind of said, well, yeah, maybe at the high school level. Well, now it's everywhere. So they will have to figure out how to handle that. And, hopefully it's something less odd-looking than those crazy big-headed helmets. But, that's something we'll see.
All right. Well, on that note, we're going to go in our final commercial break. This is the Pick-A-Lillian Kick-Ass Fantasy Football Show. I'm your host, Jumpin' John Prevost. The Professor, Steve Wynn, is with us, and we'll be back in 2 minutes.
Don't let your fantasy issues become a reality. Fantasy Judgment is the premier dispute resolution service for all fantasy sports leagues. Led by attorney Michael Stein, the Supreme Court of Fantasy Judgment will resolve any and all issues or conflicts that arise in fantasy leagues. This includes disputed trades, collusion, abuse of power by league commissioners, lineup and roster errors, draft issues, score discrepancies, and interpretation of league rules. We alleviate the burden for league commissioners and allow everyone to focus on winning their leagues rather than arguing over disputes. Visit www.fantasyjudgment.com.
I'm sexy and I know it.
Car Toys, the most innovative car customizing shop in its class. Summer is here, and so's the heat. Better get that remote start so you can cool off in your car in style with your smartphone. Car Toys can install remote start in Mercedes-Benz, push-button start, and stick shift. Reduce that glare with the best 3M window film. And while you're at it, get your car detailed by Car Toys Detail Department so your ride looks, feels, and smells brand new. Car Toys defines what everything for your car really means, from TV to reality. That's why Car Toys is the leader in the industry in car customization. Car Toys' knowledgeable team are the best in their class. Like Car Toys on Facebook and check them out at distinctivecartoys.com.
We're famous for our buffalo wings. The Pick-A-Lilly. When it comes to cooking wings, we're the king. The Pick-A-Lilly. Pull up a chair, grab a table, enjoy the atmosphere. Have something good to eat or have yourself a round of cheer. If you can't stop in, stop back. Great food, great drinks where everybody is a friend. If you can't stop in, stop back. The Pick-A-Lillian.
It isn't fall without the famous Pick-A-Lilly Inn. Catch all of your favorite football action at the Pick-A-Lilly Inn. Check out the Pick's brand new menu featuring homemade buffalo chicken egg rolls, buffalo shrimp, scallops, and the tender Pick burger. They go great with one of the Pick's ice-cold on-tap beers. Catch every football game at the Pick. Enjoy an awesome meal while you watch your favorite team. The Pick-A-Lilly Inn, a Jersey tradition since the 1920s. On Route 206 in Chemung. If you can't stop in, stop back.
The Pick-A-Lilly Inn.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Pick-A-Lillian Kick-Ass Fantasy Football Show on Blog Talk Radio. I'm your host, Jumpin' John Prevost. The Professor, Steve Wynn, is with me. I want to remind you, our guest call-in line, 877-511-1024. I have a question to ask you, Professor. Actually, December 2nd, the Pick-A-Lillian is scheduling the big bonfire for the Eagles-Dallas game. We're trying to corral all the Kick-Ass staff to go there. Are you going to be in attendance?
I am. I actually was at the Pick on Sunday. I took my dad out there for lunch and my sons. We watched as much of the Eagles-Redskins game as we could bear. It was the first time there for my boys, and my son said these are the best wings I've ever had. So, there's honesty in what a 9-year-old says, and, they are some pretty darn good wings. So I hope everybody comes out. Bonfire will be a lot of fun. A little bit of Eagles-Dallas jostling going on. We are in Eagles country, so if you're in the Philly metro or South Jersey area, come on out. It's right in the middle of South Jersey, reachable half an hour from Philly, half an hour from Atlantic City, and it's always a fun time out there.
Well, I'm planning on attending as well, and I'm anxious to try the wings. I'm a big wing fan. Went to school in upstate New York, so I'm really anxious to try them.
There you go. You're used to the premiere, the originals. So
bring on the heat, baby. Bring on the heat. So we had a lot of injuries that we discussed, and we discussed some picking the prime backups for the injured players. But obviously there's a few others out on the waiver wire that can help your team. So why don't you fill us in a little bit on some waiver wire pickups other than the injured?
Yeah, I'll take a quick run through this. If you watch the Chargers game, Denario Alexander was asserting himself. Looks like he's in what used to be the Vincent Jackson role, and they've finally given up on Robert Meacham. Alexander's out there on a lot of wires. He's a great pickup if he's available. Julian Edelman is about 50% owned in fantasy leagues, and if Shenko is not the answer, Edelman's targets along with Welker will probably increase. Justin Forsett is a name that probably hasn't come up in a lot of discussions this year, but he is the third string back behind Arian Foster and Ben Tate. Ben Tate did not play this week, and Forsett, if they get to a point where they've locked up their playoff berth, he could see a lot of playing time in your fantasy Super Bowl, worth keeping note of. Cedric Benson comes back week 14, just in time for the fantasy playoffs, and his replacements in Green Bay have been bad, barely serviceable for fantasy purposes. Speaking of handcuffs, Bernard Pierce is Ray Rice's handcuff. If they clinch a spot early and rest Rice, Pierce would be a great play. And finally, we talked about Justin Parmalee, briefly mentioned Russell Wilson at quarterback. So, there are some people out there that you should be taking a look at as you prepare your team for the fantasy playoffs.
All righty, then. Quick roundup for the rest of the waiver wire pickups. This final segment, the favorite segment from the Judge and I. We abbreviated this week. We've covered a lot of ground on our show. We've got a few minutes left. Studs, and sleepers. And I'll tell you what, Steve, I'll spare all of us the embarrassment from last week's studs, and sleepers. We won't go into detail on them because I'm not sure any of us really had a great track record for last week. As a matter of fact, my sleeper last week was Ben Tate, who didn't even play. So,
all of our duds scored touchdowns. So that's a good indicator right there.
That is a good indicator. Yeah. So let's just kind of skip over that. Pretend it never happened. We'll roll right in real quick. Studs and sleepers from the professor.
Okay, well, my stud of the week is Ray Rice. He gets Chargers defense that can be run on, and after the airing out that happened last week, I do think that that happened the week before. I think Rice gets introduced back into the game, and they kind of just push it down the Chargers' throat. So I think he's a big play. My dud is Bilal Powell. He had a great week last week, but I think he is a one-week wonder, and I think the Patriots control him. And finally, my sleeper is Jalen Parmalee. He's got the Titans this week. He is the only healthy guy down there, so he'll have that production. There's nobody who's going to come in as the third-string guy or change-of-pace guy. He's going to see something like 30 carries. That is a lot of touches. That is a lot of touches, especially against a run defense like the Titans. So I wish him all the luck. Your talent, Chad Henne. I actually picked up Cecil Shorts in a couple of leagues, so I'm really hoping the Chad Henne to Cecil Shorts connection pays off a lot more than Jalen Parmalee. For my start of the week, I'm going Tony Romo, and I'm not a Cowboys fan, but I just think he's gotten a lot of crap in the press, and I don't think he's that bad a quarterback, and I think it's about time he rights his ship. I mentioned before they got a pretty weak secondary they're facing on national TV, Thanksgiving. They're in Dallas, and I just think it's time. It's time for him to step up, and let's see what he's made of. So I'm going Tony Romo as my stud of the week, more out of sentiment than anything else.
my dud of the week, I'm going out on a limb here. Doug Martin's had a great rookie season. He's really shored up that running back position for Tampa Bay. But I think you're going to get a mad Atlanta Falcons team. They're going to want to score, and they want to score big, and Tampa's going to need the pass to keep up. So I'm putting Doug Martin as my dud of the week, and we'll keep that string of dud scoring touchdowns alive yet. And then my sleeper of the week is Ronnie Hillman. With McGahee out, I think it's his chance to shine. And he may split some carries, but I think he's the back with the more upside. And I think he's got surprise game written all over him. So Ronnie Hillman is my sleeper of the week.
I got to tell you, John, I like that sleeper. And you came on at the beginning. You said you had some issues with your voice. Apparently, you had 57 minutes of voice for the show, and we go 60. You're starting to crack up a little, so I'm trying to give you a little breather here by basically filling about a half a minute. So you can get yourself together before we get into the closeout.
Well, kudos to my old friend Steve, and I hope to see you on December 2nd. I am done. And this is the Cook-A-Lee and Kick-Ass Fantasy Football Show, and it was great to host with you. So thanks, Steve. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, I wish I knew the sign-off. I'd have done it for you there.
That's all right. Just want to thank our guests and thank our call-ins, and we'll see you all next week.